Government authorities have set certain standards and regulations. We must follow those procedures. अगर हमने उसको skip किया, तो your construction will be illegal.
Your house should not just be a matchbox that you live in. It is something that you experience and you are happy with on a daily basis.
अपने सपनों का घर बनाना हर किसी का सपना होता है। ये आम आदमी के लिए जिंदगी का एक बड़ा फैसला होता है। घर कहाँ बनाए, कैसे बनाए? अगर आपके जहन में भी कुछ ऐसी ही सोच है, तो आप सही जगह पर हैं। हम आपके लिए लेकर आए हैं एक खास सीरीज, न्यूवोको प्रेजेंट्स घर बनाओ अपना, अ न्यूज़ 18 इनिशिएटिव। ये आपका पहला कदम होगा आपके गृह प्रवेश की ओर। यहाँ आपको न सिर्फ मिलेगी सारी जानकारी, बल्कि हर उस पहलू को छुआ जाएगा जो आपके सपनों का घर बनाने के लिए जरूरी है। आने वाले हफ्तों में हम, आप और रियल एस्टेट इंडस्ट्री से जुड़े हमारे जाने माने एक्सपर्ट्स आपको घर बनाने की पूरी जानकारी देंगे, सही फैसला लेने में आपकी मदद करेंगे। इससे पहले कि हम आगे बढ़ें, दो बातों के बारे में जानना जरूरी है, जिसे हम सपनों का घर बनाने की तरफ पहला कदम कहते हैं, परमिशंस और क्लियरेंसेस।
Town planner can be your first mentor and guide as you think about building your dream home, because when you think about where to buy that piece of land to build the dream home, you have to think about things like, is that land even available for building a home? You have to think about the zoning laws, FAR in that area. Are you even allowed to build a land there? So they can really help you with the due diligence of the place. So if you're going to go and buy a piece of land in a green field place which is full of nature now, they will help you understand what this area can look like in the next 2 or 3 decades.
The role of a lawyer at a stage where you are now essentially processing permissions to be able to build upon a plot of land that you have just recently acquired is more to work in tandem with the architect.
So licensing architect can help you submit the corporation drawing, get it approved. Periodically आपको जो NOCs लगने वाले हैं, plane checking लगने वाला है, completion certificate लगने वाला है, ये सारा procedure licensing architect can help you till the end.
From the homeowner's perspective, the first thing is legality. Your house needs to be legal. It has to be approved by the government, because the government will charge you taxes based on what you have gotten approved from the government. From the government's perspective, what is important is that you need to keep everybody on the same platform. For example, your neighbor cannot build a tall high-rise building 10-20 story and you are just allowed to build a ground plus one. Everybody has to be kept on the same platform, which is why government develops something called as a bylaws.
Building bylaws regulate the construction of a particular building in a given municipal area. There are certain codes and standards which have prescribed in this building bylaw, which your architect would follow then necessarily to be able to design layout or a architectural drawing for purposes of construction in adherence to the building bylaws.
Government authorities have set certain standards and regulations. We must follow those procedures. अगर हमने उसको skip किया, तो your construction will be illegal.
The second important function of the government is to give you infrastructure. When I say infrastructure, it means roads, it means water, it means electricity, taking away your drainage, your rainwater from your plot. So the government needs to know what kind of a quantity of water you will require, what is the amount of electricity you will require. So for all of those things, the government wants to know what you are going to build. So that is why the approvals are important, so that your house, once it is ready, being serviced by the government the way it is supposed to be serviced.
अगर आपने सही तरीके से सारे permissions और clearances नहीं लिए, सबसे important आपको यहाँ पे occupation certificate नहीं मिलेगा, जिसकी वजह से आपको MSCB का connection नहीं मिलेगा, आपको electricity, water किसी का भी connection नहीं मिलेगा. In longer run, अगर आपको कोई financial institution से loan चाहिए उस property के ऊपर, आपको वो भी नहीं मिलेगा.
In India, we have the National Building Code, which are a series of design principles and standards that are created to ensure that the building is safe, sustainable, and healthy for residents to live in. Architects today are also working on standards which make a building more sustainable and green, as well as standards like the well building standards that focus on well-being of the residents from both a physical as well as a psychological way.
अनुमति और मंजूरी लेना जरूरी है, ये तो साफ हो गया, मगर हर घर की कुछ स्पेशल रिक्वायरमेंट्स होती हैं और इन स्पेशल रिक्वायरमेंट्स के लिए जरूरत होती है स्पेशल परमिशंस की।
As a homeowner, I'm sure you will have special requirements like balconies, terraces, double height spaces. All of these also have to be approved by the government within their framework. Swimming pool will require a lot of water, so the government has to be able to provide you that much water to be used in your swimming pool. You go to smaller places like Gram Panchayats, there where you are generating your own water using wells or borewells, it might not be such a problem. But in larger cities where the government is supplying you water, there those specific approvals have to be taken. When you go towards balconies, terraces, double height spaces, all of these things were initially free of FSI. You could build as big as you want. But slowly the government is moving towards getting all of this within the FSI that is approved. And we as architects do really encourage you to get all these kinds of features within your own house. Your house should not just be a matchbox that you live in. It is something that you experience and you are happy with on a daily basis. And your design architect is the one who will make sure that you have a nice experiential house.
घर बनाने के लिए परमिशंस को लेकर तस्वीर अब आपके दिमाग में साफ हो गई होगी। अब आप ये भी जान लीजिए कि ये परमिशन सरकार के अलग-अलग डिपार्टमेंट से लेने के लिए आपको कौन-कौन से डॉक्यूमेंट्स की जरूरत पड़ेगी।
There are two main sets of documents that we give the government. The first set of documents are related to the title of your property. The title of the property is basically the ownership of the land, and that establishes how you have a right on that particular property. Land basically is divided into two types. One is a land that is owned by the government. The second is a land that is owned by private individuals. If it is a government land, you will require lease documents of that particular property from the government authority. The second is a conveyanced land or a private land holding. So that particular document will show how you have been able to obtain rights to build your house on that particular land. If it is, say for example, your ancestral property where you want to build a house on such a particular land, you will have to show the government records. In Maharashtra, they are called Satbara Utaras or property cards, which will show how your family owns this particular piece of land. If you are buying it from somebody else, you will have to first establish who is the owner of that particular property as per government records. You should only be dealing with these kinds of people to buy that particular property. In India, we are not very updated with the records. They might not even be alive. And then there are legal heirs who are there in various parts of the country or even the world. So your important job then is to first identify who all are the legal heirs. A lawyer will be able to help you out to reduce your liabilities to the minimum. There are things like succession certificates that the existing landowner will have to give to the court, saying that there are only X number of landowners that are or legal heirs that are available at the moment. Apart from that, there is a public notice. A public notice will also help you to identify whether the existing landowner has given his or her plot to any financial institution or a bank to avail of any loans. If that is the case, the bank will come forward and stop the deed. So a succession certificate, a public notice, these are sort of important documents if you are buying a house. Now we will understand the second part of the submission to the government. That is the plan of the house that you want to build. So once your design architect will give us a plan, we vet this plan to understand whether it fits within this whole bylaw system. Once it fits, we submit these plans to the government authority.
अगर आपके पास सैंक्शन कॉर्पोरेशन ड्राइंग नहीं है तो आप साइट पे कंस्ट्रक्शन स्टार्ट नहीं कर सकते हो. Corporation drawing is a very evident document which has all the details of your design. That has the layout, that has the sections, that has elevations, that has all the area calculations and the location. So it comprises of all the information. So once we submit it to the local government, local authority, that's municipal corporation, they generate the commencement certificate against it. Commencement certificate is a certificate which allows you to start the work on site.
Let me give an example. We are going to take example of 3 different areas in India. Let's say we have Uttarakhand, we have Delhi, and then we have, say, Meghalaya. Uttarakhand and Meghalaya has special laws, which basically means that a person who's domiciled in that state, only and only them can basically buy and own properties in the state. However, in a state like Delhi, people from all over the country can basically land up there, and you have enough money, you can buy a property and sell property to anybody, there's no restriction. Now, what happens is with banks, even if you're, say, Khasi, hailing from Meghalaya, you're in Bombay, You will not be able to walk into a branch in Bombay and move a loan application or a home loan application for a property you would want to buy back home. You will necessarily have to go back to your state in that local branch where you want to make an application, and there you initiate the loan application process.
परमिशंस के साथ साथ आपको ये भी ध्यान में रखना है कि आप किस जोन में कंस्ट्रक्शंस करने वाले हो, उस पर भी काफी कुछ निर्भर करता है।
The government has basically divided the country into two parts. One is a green zone, the other one is a yellow zone. So green zone is basically intending to protect the environment. So this will include things like rivers, forests, and such other natural features that need to be protected. So if you are intending to build your house here, then there will be restrictions in how much you can build or what you can use this particular zone for. If you are building in a yellow zone, your FSI is much higher. FSI basically is the amount of building you can build on a particular plot. For example, if it is 1 FSI or FAR like it is called in certain portions of the country, then you have a 1000 square feet plot, you can build a 1000 square feet house on that. If the FSI is 2, you have a 1000 square feet plot, you can build 2000 square feet on that particular plot. Whereas if you go to the green zone, this particular thing reduces down quite a lot, and to some extent it is even 0.2%. So for example, if you have a 1000 square feet plot, you would get to build only say 20 square feet on such a property. This is largely done to protect the environment. The second thing is the DCR that is applicable or for that particular plot. DCR's full form basically is Development Control Regulations, or bylaws in local parlance is applicable to that. That DCR will tell you how much FSI you can build, what sort of open spaces are required, what kind of a height you can go to. So there are these basic kinds of regulations that are defined in the DCR.
It should not be part of the coastal regulative zone, which can hamper any kind of construction. Ensure it's not part of any of the wildlife corridors which are there and very prevalent in especially tier 3 cities which are next to the countryside and forests. You can't do any development close to a forest. So these are big questions to ask a lawyer or a planner or an architect when you buy that piece of land. Also, when you buy a piece of land in a new community, understand that the landowners have to give a piece of their land for road development as well. So ensure that you think about some of these things so large portion of your land doesn't go into building the community infrastructure. You all may have seen that image of those high-rise residential towers in Kochi being knocked down overnight because it was built in the ecologically sensitive zone, violating the coastal regulative zone. So these are very, very important things to focus on and ensure that you're not violating any of these laws, because this asset that you're building is your life's work, and violating something like a CRZ or building close to a forest will destroy the value of that home very quickly. So, focus and spend a lot of time on due diligence so you don't do something that will reduce the value of your investment overnight. Please don't do these common mistakes.
घर बनाने की प्लानिंग में यहाँ तक की प्रक्रिया जानने के बाद आप सोच रहे होंगे कि अब वक्त है एक्शन का। नहीं जनाब, अभी तो वक्त हुआ है एक ब्रेक का। ब्रेक के बाद बात करेंगे कि कैसे आप एक सेल्फ सस्टेनेबल और एनवायरनमेंट फ्रेंडली घर बना सकते हैं, वो भी वाजिब दाम में। जी हाँ, पॉकेट फ्रेंडली। ब्रेक के बाद आपका स्वागत है न्यूवोको प्रेजेंट्स घर बनाओ अपना, अ न्यूज़ 18 इनिशिएटिव में। हम बात कर रहे हैं घर बनाने के लिए परमिशंस एंड क्लियरेंसेस की। सालों से चली आ रही परमिशंस और क्लियरेंसेस की लिस्ट, लेकिन आम आदमी के लिए क्या इस प्रोसेस में कुछ बदलाव आए हैं? ये जानकारी भी आपके काम की है।
So initially the homeowner did not understand where all the homeowner is supposed to go to get these approvals. For example, in Mumbai you had to get 50 different approvals to start building your house. However, the government, by this initiative called as ease of doing business, is now improving this particular situation. I will explain this by giving you two examples. In Maharashtra, there is something called as a UDCR. Unified Development Control Regulations, which is applicable to all the municipal councils and corporations except the big ones like Mumbai, Pune, Nagpur. So what happens by this is that all the development across the state will now be the same. You can therefore employ any architect from anywhere across the state. The second and the good initiative that is being taken by governments across is online approval system. For example, if you have a plot and you submit your approvals in Gujarat, then you will get your approvals within 7 to 10 days and you don't have to go anywhere. You just have to submit your approvals online. What this is doing, it is reducing a lot of corruption. The second thing is the moment you get an approval, it becomes online and available for the public. You can simply go on the government portal and search for a particular plot. You will get the approvals related to that particular plot. So this is reducing a lot of mischief and malpractices wherein people used to get any approval and build anything on the plot. Now you have to build exactly what you get approval for.
सीसी, एनओसी और ओसी, हम सभी ने अपनी जिंदगी में इन शब्दों को सुना होगा, पर क्या आप इनका मतलब जानते हैं? घर बनाने की प्रक्रिया में ये बहुत जरूरी गवर्नमेंट डॉक्यूमेंट्स हैं। इनके बारे में जानना जरूरी है क्योंकि ये दिलाते हैं आपको आपके सपनों का घर।
OC is an occupancy certificate and a CC is a completion certificate. A completion certificate again is basically a certificate given by the concerned regulatory authority that the building stands to be completed as per the drawings which have been submitted by the architect to the authority. Subsequently, a occupancy certificate is that yes, the building stands completed and it is now fit for use.
Then we submit these two sets of documents to the government. Then the government will come with its approvals. Now the approvals in smaller cities, what you get is a commencement certificate or CC in short. If you go to larger cities like Mumbai, Pune, those kinds of cities, what you will get first is a plan approval. It's called as IOD. After that, you will get the CC and then you can start your construction. So this is what the government will give you. Before you get this permission, the government will ask us as licensed architects to go to their various departments. When I say that, it means your fire department, your water department, your electric department to understand whether they will be able to service this particular plot or not. The access to the plot is also very important. You cannot build on a plot which does not have access directly from a municipal road, or you do not have right to go into somebody else's plot and enter your plot because you need to get in materials, you need to actually go to your house once it is built.
At the time of completion, there are certain NOCs which are required. For example, garden NOC, water NOC, drainage NOC, vermiculture NOCs. So this is a very integral part of the completion. So once you have all the NOCs in place, then you're entitled to have the occupation certificate.
Local authorities in India often have like specific rules to give you a completion certificate or an occupancy certificate. For example, many municipalities and panchayats now require for you to have rainwater harvesting and groundwater recharge facilities within even a home to give you a completion certificate. So you have to ensure that you work with your experts, whether it's the architect or the licensing architect, to understand those specific local laws that are crucial for you to achieve the occupancy certificate of your home.
घर बनाने में आजकल एक और शब्द इस्तेमाल किया जा रहा है, सस्टेनेबल होम्स, यानी वो घर जो अपनी कई जरूरतों का खुद ख्याल रख सके और एनवायरनमेंट फ्रेंडली भी हो।
Considering homes are such a huge part of such a big life decision, and it's probably one of the biggest investments that any of us do in a lifetime, you have to think about what that plot of land is going to look like in the next 2 or 3 decades. And town planners can paint that picture based on the current and proposed infrastructure plans, development rules, and master plans of that area on what that neighborhood is going to look like.
Very important pro tip which I would like to give it to you is to have a solar panel on your roof. That will not only help you heat the water but to generate the electricity as well. And this is a very crucial subject to have the clearances in the end.
Sustainability was a huge part of India's vernacular architectural culture. If you look at our historic houses, whether it was in the north of India or south of India, it always had elements that responded to local climate, which meant that it kept the homes cool during the summer and warmer during winter. So for example, if you lived in the tropical coastal areas of India, you would see things like the courtyard, which were elements around which communal spaces were created, and then you would have the living spaces around it. And this acted as a natural way to kind of ensure that the spaces are cool during a hot summer day. And you always had, in most of our architecture, little communal spaces at the entrance of your household with those little colonnades. We call them angan, and those really reduce the heat within the building. And if you really want to be sustainable, you have to pay attention to the local architectural traditions as well as the local materials. If you build with local stones or bricks or roofing materials, it will reduce your energy footprint by almost 50 to 60%.
As a pro tip, I would like to tell you one thing. Never manipulate any of the documents, neither bypass any of the procedures.
हौसला बनाए रखना और इरादे मजबूत रखना घर बनाते वक्त बेहद जरूरी है। चलिए थोड़े इरादे हम भी आपके बुलंद कर देते हैं। क्या आपको पता है कि दुनिया में सबसे जल्दी बिल्डिंग भारत में ही बनने का रिकॉर्ड दर्ज है। इस काम में 200 मजदूर लगे थे और 48 घंटे में बिल्डिंग बनकर तैयार हो गई थी। यानी ठान लो तो हम हिंदुस्तानियों के लिए कुछ भी असंभव नहीं। न्यूवोको प्रेजेंट्स घर बनाओ अपना, अ न्यूज़ 18 इनिशिएटिव के इस एपिसोड में इतना ही। अगले शो में बात होगी पैसों की, बजट्स और लोन की।